get the whole story.
Welcome back. You're watching Uongozi today. We continue with the conversation on this tail end of the program. We'll look at recently, of course, where we had this saga of the leakage at the JKIA, and we had the CS blaming the previous administration, as Victor has actually drawn here inside the delineation. It wasn't me, and you can see the ominous cloud there raining at the airport, and of course we have the light. It was actually a tragedy of a blackout and the rains, and Uhuru Kenyatta is being dragged into this saga as well. Let's just hear from Kipruto Rapkiro. First of all, do you support the view that we should have, or is already constituted, that particular committee to try and investigate or try and audit all the airports here in the country? What is the sole responsibility of the Kenya Airports Authority?
Well, I think it was a knee-jerk reaction, because the minister, if he's in charge of that particular portfolio, should have known who was the contractor. Why is there still some kind of makeshift arrangement of prefabs on the entry to our country and exit out of our country? Those are things that any normal minister would be able to know and be able to make decisions without necessarily the benefit of constituting a committee of the same officers who should have given him a report one afternoon. The second issue is that I think there is challenge of communication in this regime. A minister or a deputy president, once they make, or even the president, of course starting with the president downwards, when you make a statement, be aware that that statement has far-reaching repercussions. One, Kenyans believe in you, and when they believe in you, what you say, they tend to believe until they are given contrary information. For the minister to say that he is blaming it on the previous regime, nothing can be said other than it was totally out of order, and it does not behove the character or the position of a minister to make such statements. It's like buying a house from you, and 1 year down the road, I start blaming it on certain leakages on you, which means either I never did due diligence by the time I took over the house, or the house has just, out of challenges beyond you, has gotten into that particular state of affairs. What they should accept is that the more you blame Uhuru Kenyatta, the more you look very responsible. I remember when we inherited the economy 2003, it was worse off than they found Uhuru Kenyatta's economy from President Moi. But in the 10 years Kibaki was the president, he never blamed President Moi on anything. And none of us were allowed to blame it on President Moi, because Kibaki told us, don't tell us what happened, tell us what you are doing and what the future of this country should be. And don't tell us what you are likely to do next year. Tell us what you are doing now. And I thought that was very high moral probity on the part of the president. So Murkomen to say is appointing some individuals really from the same department to come and give him a report after 14 days, and perhaps on the longer stretch after 28 days, either he does not know what happens in that particular department, or he himself is chosen to make fun of us, because an international airport within the Horn of Africa, which we claim to be the hub of communication in the eastern bloc of Africa, should not be something akin to a cowshed. That's the best I can say. Now, the other thing, Dibal, I was worried before we went for the break. You mentioned the issue of government getting into another deal.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Okay.
We'll come to that. Let's just hear from, because also Barak has to leave.
You say a cowshed is a bad thing, because a cowshed should be a very good thing.
A cowshed, you know, cows can be rained on, but it will not affect anything. But if you've come from your nice suit, from Germany or from France or from Italy, Canali from Italy, and once you get into the airport, you are rained on. You know, that suit is going to waste. Even by the time you take to the laundry, it is not going to take the shape that's supposed to be, because laundry for a certain category of clothes is supposed to be dry cleaning. And when you put water, it's no longer dry cleaning. You are making it wet and soaking, and you are making it dirty.
And you know, this is is a suit that is worth 800,000 shillings.
Yeah,
so this is
anything between 200 and 800,000, depending on your pocket.
So it's
because you can go for quality.
You should pay duty on that suit.
But not when you have won it.
It's beyond $1 million. It's even beyond almost $1 million.
So for me, I can start by saying, first of all, President William Ruto has done something to make Kenya be very visible, like very visible in the international scene. But the problem with that visibility is now what is being said about Kenya. You know, there's a proverb that says that a monkey that climbs a tree exposes the ass. So when you climb a tree in the global scene, you are very visible. But what are people seeing? Are people seeing good impression? So with the airport not working well, Kenya is on the global map. People are watching. When you come to the airport, it's leaking. People's suits are getting destroyed. Now the harassment carries. So I think that the whole airport mess and the JKI image needs to be done. You remember, I looked at the ranking. They usually rank the most friendly airport to guests. Amsterdam is one of them. Seoul Airport in is it South Korea?
South Korea.
Is among the best airports to be in. Where will you put Kenya in terms of the most attractive airports for passengers, even for transporting, when you land? For example, with all the infrastructure now, if you look at the airport that you can see, the one in Ghana might start to look friendly. If you go to the Dar es Salaam airport, you might see more friendly airport handling for foreigners who are coming in and out. So Kenya must be really competitive in the global sphere, and I think that needs to be done. Then for me, there's something I have to explain here, because if you become a CEO one day, Debal, if you know you cannot perform anything, work with two things. One, spend some years blaming your predecessor. That's a strategy for a successful CEO, that you will deliver nothing and you get your salary for 2 terms. You'll be named, I'll tell you. Blame your boss, then the second term, blame the economy and blame the workers. Then you finish your term 6 years and you go home. And you'll go with all your benefits and salaries. So if this is what Kenya Kwanza needs to do, they will get the 2 terms like Gachagua says. They can get it by spending time blaming Uhuru Kenyatta, then blaming the economy, blaming the war in Russia, blaming the war in Palestinian and Israel. What I'm telling Kenyans is that we do not want to listen to those things, because there's what you call reality. Reality is that the war in Hamas and Israel can affect our economy, but what are you doing to mitigate? Because that's what leadership is all about. Things don't happen, they are made to happen. And according to me, we have a government that's very optimistic, but there's a time when optimism is not smart. You must also be pessimistic. Pessimistic means that you know that there's a mosquito inside your net. You can sleep with optimism, the mosquito will bite you. You wake up and smash the mosquito, then you sleep. There is something wrong that we can see. What are you doing about the oil prices? What are you doing about the JKI thing? So I do not take excuses. I tell you, my home, I've trained my son who is 6 years old now, that excuses are outside this house. They are not inside here. So they don't help, because it's only crumble people. And there's what they call a culture of non-performance. A culture of non-performance is people become competent. No, people become competent in explaining why they are not doing something. And the Kenya Kwanza government is very good in explaining why they cannot deliver to us. But we want them to explain to us what they are doing about what is happening. I think that's more a culture of performance than just being good. And anyone can explain why they can't do anything. In fact, there is nothing that fails to get an excuse about. But leadership is about, like my senior says, what are you doing about the situation and how are you turning things around? Because that's actually what is important.
Right.
Then allow me just to say something, because I've been belabored here very highly about my comment about procreation. I will say that we need population growth. Actually, everybody wants population growth. That's why if you get married, you and your wife, and you only have 2 children, you have not grown population, just replace yourself. We believe you have to have 3 in the minimum. So by saying 2 is not right, because if all of us having 2 children, there's no population growth, people are just replacing themselves. I have 3 children now, so I believe at least I have grown population by 1. And I believe that everybody needs to grow that. But the work, we'll get there. We have economy must improve. But the second thing I'm trying to say that there is the work of the citizens to work towards population growth, but the work of the state to ensure the quality of the population is good enough so that the economy can grow as population grows. Because the per capita income is affected if you look at the population and the national income. Because ours is $2,000, and you go to South Africa, which we are trying to compete with, $7,000. I don't even talk about the ones, for example, about Singapore we are talking about. That's around $25,000. So we need the country to really talk about the quality of the population so the young people can get children, but quality population to grow so that there's not too much poverty.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from Martin Olo, JK.
You see, I'm sitting next to the professor here, and every time he talks, I want to talk more. But let's go back to JKIA. We saw what happened, and we also saw the solution. One thing that we need to accept with the Kenya Kwanza regime is number 1, which is very fundamental. They don't make mistakes. They don't. Everything that goes wrong, it's only in the past. We blame it in the past. Everything they have planned, they are on the course. Everything is perfect. They are implementing the manifesto. So, what happens in JKI? Blame it on Uhuru. But then, because you don't want to make a quick decision, put a committee. In other words, postpone the decision on it. What needed to be done is simply fixing. Maybe it's just a guttering issue. Maybe it's a very simple thing. But the next thing you'll hear is that to repair the place needs 100 million or 500 million. You remember what happened after the demonstrations? We were told it will cost 700 million. Those estimates, such figures come from nowhere, or at least they cannot be explained. So having said that, my problem with Professor here, with his Solomonic...
This is an opportunity to budget corruption.
Yeah. Yes, but in fact, that to us is, and we've seen it. Where on earth have you seen a budget approved in June, a supplementary budget being made in November? And the things that you are seeing happening, roads, remove money, increase on the office of the president, office of the DP, increase the budget by 180 something billion, and you are explaining it so casually that it is going to fund interest rates. So really, and we've heard it from the controller of budgets, and it's obvious that we actually have fictitious figures to the extent that even today as we speak, nobody knows exactly what our debt is and what we are paying. But somehow we are paying it, and somehow we have figures, somehow we have declarations. There is a way in which we have decided to live the way we are living, and I wanted to encourage us as well, particularly for Professor here. You know, he wants to be one of these days. I've told him that the day he becomes a if he becomes the president of this country, I will be in this studio, and I'll be pointing fingers, and I'll be still doing the work I do, which is critique and provide. So there's a difference between idealism and reality. This thing about quality life and whatnot. You are saying here that, you know, people want to plan for parties, want to plan for Christmas. Those things have since stopped in the village, my friend. It's just people like you who want to go to the village to enjoy. People in the village cannot enjoy a thing. They are living the normal, which is below poverty line. And life is like that. So where do Nataka use? Who wants to hold these things?
Chapati still has to be the main thing.
We cannot give up hope, man.
No, let's have hope, but let's also be realistic.
But in all these sufferings, at least Christmas
is something you should have.
It's something you actually should enjoy and relish. We cannot say from January to December still with the hard,
At least
Whether he travels or not to the village.
when I was going up,
I'll give you a chance. I'll give you
just 1 minute.
No.
When I was going up as a young boy-
You'll have time. Because Barack also is leaving. He's got an appointment in 10 minutes. So
Okay.
I will let him just have time. So you just tell us, especially, I don't know if you want to comment on this, because we want to move on now to Kawira Mwangaza and the dissolution of the county as she suggested.
Don't tempt him. Let him just concentrate so that he can leave us to talk serious things.
To talk serious things.
When he's going.
I can roll the two into one bundle and dispose of it with alacrity. Professor Ogola here knows that Christmas is time for them to come and disturb us in the village. We village dwellers.
Eat more than they bring.
The Nairobi people arriving with their machines to just cause
music box.
mayhem.
Damn.
Yeah, and,
Chicken and other life.
in the village and rolling from one pub to the next, and generally causing chaos, and we cannot stop wondering when the hell they will leave and go back where they came from. So Nairobians, we are cautioning you, please, this time when you come, we need a bit of sobriety.
Yes.
And Professor Ogola he has written a book on Solomonic economics. I think he should do another one on economics of lamentation, because that is where he excels, in lamenting without offering any possible tangible solutions. I like it that yesterday Mr. Raila Odinga was giving some options. He was talking about the VAT, he was talking about the housing levy, he's talking about things which he thinks should be removed, offering an alternative. Professor Ogola does not offer any alternatives. He just laments and laments, and including lamenting, as I have pointed out, on wrong things about procreation and recreation and that kind of stuff. When he gives us examples of places like China, we know that China had for a very long time a two-children policy. And he's right only to the extent that when you are only two, you have only two children, yourself and your wife, you have not contributed to population growth.
You've replaced.
You have only replaced yourselves.
But it makes sense. But it does make sense.
He says he's right.
What is the growth? Because I've listened to it and I've said,
there
what
must
is the
be-
growth? If it's not my replacement, if there
You
only
must bring a third person.
for the growth to happen.
Yeah, for the growth to
He did.
happen.
For that, I
You
think
must-
he's right.
He's right to the extent that he says when you have only two children, you have only replaced yourselves. If you have only one, you have only done half of the job. You need to go back and give us another child. Then that way we can say, all right, we have leveled the ground, but you have not made any contribution. You have not made any progress. So people out there should go and multiply, be fruitful, conquer the earth and subdue it. And I'll be having a quiet conversation with my Archbishop, the Most Reverend Jackson Olesapit on this, because I think that is wrong theology. That's not what God has told us. Now,
But maybe we need to understand from his own context, from what context. Maybe I'm quoting him even out of context. He might have spoken this within a context. Or regardless of
that's
what context.
one of the things I'll be interrogating him about, the context. I'll also want to know whether he's asking us, advising us to use contraceptives, or whether he's advising married couples to abstain from recreation. Yeah, because even Pauline scripture tells us that, in fact, Paul says that ideally people should not get married. They should be like him, yeah, celibate. But then he goes on to say, but because I know not all of us are like me, most of us are weak, take one wife so that you may not fall into temptation. What is the Most Reverend advising us about falling into temptation. Yeah? If we are to refrain from doing the things that are supposed to be done in marriage because children will increase, are we to use contraceptives? Is that the stand of the Anglican Church now? And we are thinking about contraception across the board. Perhaps it's a very dangerous space that as a church we are wading our way towards. But allow me to say a thing or two about Kawira Mwangaza, and then maybe you will allow me to move on, and as Martin Olo says, they can discuss more serious things. I thought we were discussing
When you're good.
very serious issues, but that's fine. I think Meru is a disappointment. We have been told proverbially, and I think those who use that proverb have no bad intent, but they have said something like a loaded gun in the hands of some animal is a very dangerous thing. The whole idea of impeachment is very good for us in this country. But I think we are seeing it being abused repeatedly, to the extent that governors and county governments are sitting in fear all the time, and it's being applied most of the time for selfish reasons, that people want access to resources, the people in the county assemblies, for their own selfish benefit. And most of the time, if you're a governor and you're not playing ball, they will impeach you. They will impeach your cabinet. And I think that is abuse of office. It is abuse of that facility of impeachment. And Meru County has reached a point where it should go the Professor Kivuda Kibwana way. We remember Professor Kivuda Kibwana being the first person to petition Senate to dissolve the county government of Makueni County, it was at that time, and to send everybody back to their electorate. To the extent that it could be positive, the positive thing about the goings on in Meru has been that it has been testing the pillars of the Constitution, and the Constitution has been seen to be strong. It has been seen to be working. Kawira Mwangaza has been sent to the Senate twice, and twice the Senate has closed ranks across the political divide to say that it had not seen anything significant here. To push that test of the Constitution to its logical end in that regard, I think the time has come when that county government, complete with the assembly, should go into dissolution. And if they think that they want to put in place a better government, let a new government be elected in Makueni, including in Meru, including within the legislature and within the gubernatorial office. I thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much. Wish you well for your endeavors. I know you've got an appointment, should I say it? Right, with a doctor, so you have to keep it. That's why you didn't take my breakfast. So I think you left some for a lot for Martin Olo here. So
we will.
I'm assuring him that the doctor will give him good news. So don't not be worried.
We will catch up with Martin.
We'll pray for you. Yeah.
Although he is my brother.
No, this is just so, you don't do a medical checkup. It doesn't mean that he's he's just going for the annual checkup. He's winding up.
Whatever worries, I'll pray for it.
There are no worries. Yeah. This is a regular checkup of which you think just going to see you have a problem. You must see the doctor. No, sometimes
he also does the same.
Yeah. I doubt the way he's actually reacting. Oh, we pray for him.
No.
He seems
just want to assure you.
Let the record present how operation will take place.
What will be this well?
It's not enough to assume you are well.
Assume you're well.
Yeah, in fact, it's good to encourage Kenyans out there that we should all be in the habit of going for medical checkup. And Professor Ogola doesn't think that he sees anything good out of this government. I think he needs to acknowledge that now all of us can go for medical checkup, and it's a good thing.
And the government will pay.
Yeah, no, but I say some positive things. But before this guy goes, there are some things he said he should not.
I know if you begin, he won't go.
One
is going to an appointment.
Is that actually I've said that Kenya is visible. The president has done that. And I offer solutions about how to solve the oil and the wheat issue. I'm not cynical. I offer solutions. And Solomonic Economics has it. You have a book, you go read. Then we talk after
I will read it. I hope we hold a conversation on Professor Ogola's economics.
Yes, we will do that.
Next time, and we want to see whether he's contributing any fresh knowledge to economics or just regurgitating.
Just give me that, Barak, also before you go. Yes, Home and Exile. Barak just also recently launched his book. This is Home and Exile, Forced Migration and South Sudanese refugees in Kenya's Kakuma refugee camp. I know we had a very telling issues from our Kakuma camps and the Dadaab camps as well, and there has been a debate of whether we should actually close these particular camps. It's a good read. Next time we thrash out this particular book, I had dedicated some time that we should talk about it, and the Solomonic, of course, economics of
Professor Ogola.
Professor Ogola.
Yes,
we should just lift it up so that you can see it.
Listen to them.
I'd asked you for a PDF so that, but you actually just send, I think the synopsis behind. So next time, make sure you just get me the PDF nicely so that we can portray it. This is a book, and of course, also we have Solomonic Economics by Professor Ogola.
Before you go,
you're seated with consummate authors. No.
I'm just encouraging.
No. Let him go. Just let him go.
These two copies will be passed on.
Yes. May I have a copy already?
Doctor.
Thank you very much.
So you've already autographed.
When I grow up,
mine was not autographed. So
I'd like you to come back on Friday next week so that I autograph a book you have read.
Yeah, that's
otherwise you're going to keep it on the shelves.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. Right. I
we were writing one with Dr. Martin Olo.
You guys are writing a book.
This one we have to do one.
Yeah. The ball I wanted to say, we encourage the culture of writing, and I encourage you. I was telling you, because people are saying we have a bad reading culture, but we have not known that even we have a very bad writing culture. Yeah. So keep writing.
Yes.
If this generation does not read like you said,
the next generation will read.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right, and we have a generation that does not read. I think also the invasion of the digital age.
It's part of reading.
He's created a scatterbrain on Twitter, so you cannot just sit down and read at home, cover to cover. So it takes time, and we need to inculcate this particular culture. Our Kenya Library was just celebrating 50 years, so is the library services as well in the epic of time? Is it relevant right now, or everything has gone digital? That's another thing that
it's relevant. The library may go into different guises, the book as well, but it's still there.
Right. Even as we go, I'm always a proponent of books because I believe when you read books, you should involve all your senses for a better recall, right? There is the olfactory senses, there is your touch,
the smell of the book.
The smell of the book, the crinkling of the pages. All these senses, they help in actually storing all this information that a digital iPad will not do. But thank you so much.
Most
We really
welcome.
appreciate
Thank you,
it.
and I thank my
Yeah.
fellow panelists.
We'll see you next week.
viewers.
All right.
Yeah.
Even as we
Thank
continue to
you.
look at Mwangaza, I just want maybe Kipruto, or you wanted to tell Barak something? I can
No,
see.
it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Kawara Mwangaza is what we were talking about.
Well, Mwangaza.
Yeah, now we are on Meru.
I think he's lost his track of thought.
No,
we were
no.
still on Mwangaza. Barak was just a sideway.
Okay, I had not gotten to Meru.
But that's where I'm taking you to Meru.
Yeah, it was Barak who continued the Meru story.
That's what I'm saying. You pick up on the
Okay.
Mwangaza story as well.
Yeah, thank you.
What is your view?
Yep. So I wish well our brother, because the magician, Dr. Martin Olo, has already said is well.
It's well.
Yeah, because I think Martin Olo should be in Kenya Kwanza, because they can predict what will happen. Yeah, but really suffice to say the following about Meru. It is not really Meru alone. I think in a number of counties, there is a lot of antagonism among the leaders. You find in some counties, it say that the governor versus the deputy governor, the county assembly versus the office of the governor, and either they are impeaching the deputy governor, they're impeaching the governor, or they are putting censor of motion against the CCs and COs. This is a sign that Kenya is not in communication. I think there should be better leadership style where leaders are encouraged as much as possible to realize that the differences they have are fewer than the similarities they have. Why do I say so? Because all these individuals were elected to provide some leadership to a certain entity called a county, and yet and that is supposed to be leadership is not supposed to be self-aggrandizement. It's supposed to be an opportunity to serve the people, and it's supposed to be a privilege. But many leaders, and this is what you see in society, many leaders, once they get into a position of privilege, because any position of leadership, whether for 1 year, 10 years, or many more years, is a position that you should always ask yourself, why am I here? I'm here because I've been favored by divine intervention to be a leader among so many people, some of them more educated than you, some of them more intelligent than you, more resourceful than you. But many leaders nowadays, they think that position of privilege is a position of a right to do what they please. And something that we are not seeing, even society itself, is a negative reflection of the values that we enshrine in this constitution that we gave ourselves in 2010. I say so because if you are to go down to Makueni, for example, Professor Kivuta Kibwana was telling the MCAs, the resources you are asking for are not provided. Therefore, I cannot give you money that is not budgeted for, unless you tell me how to deal with the whole budget process within the constitution and within the laws of the county and the country. I cannot give you money. They were very adamant. Of course, they were sent home, but of course the tribunal that was set up subsequent to that gave recommendations to the president, and the president was of a different view, that no, stay together. But of course the next election, I think out of so many of them, I think about 40 something, only 2 went back, and Professor Kibwana was re-elected. I have this issue that Governor Mwangaza, should they go home, she may be the only one coming back. Because I think the impeachment effort that has been attempted twice is not based on merit. It is based on witch hunt, is based on differences between her and other leaders, and it is being engineered by leaders who either lost elections to her or those who feel she didn't deserve that position. I get worried because it is not Mwangaza per se, it's not the county assembly of Meru per se, it is the way we think of leadership It is not the way leadership is in reality.
All right, let's hear from Martin Law.
The issues around Kawira Mwangaza and generally the issues of impeachment are issues that bring our good intentions, especially the framers of the Constitution. They intended that where there is a case, where there are serious violations, or a governor has acted in a manner contrary to the Constitution, there should be a recall mechanism, and that's why the impeachment process is in. That said, throughout the existence, now over 10 years of our devolution, what we have seen, apart from the impeachment process in Nairobi that succeeded, has generally been an exercise that questions the integrity and the understanding of the various county assemblies in using this tool. Now, I believe that the tool in and of itself has no problem and indeed is a good mechanism. The problem we have in this country is the problem of accountability, the problem of leadership, and the problem of values. Now, when I say accountability, to what extent are the MCAs that are deploying this tool of impeachment so far demonstrating that they are interested in accountability? Out of 10, we find that 9.5 have no sense of accountability. Neither is the framing of the issues anything. Twice, the framing of the issues in Meru has been substandard, and even to bring it up to the point at which it has been brought has been a public waste of time. So the framers of the Constitution, with all their good intentions, did not wish, they never wished that this mechanism would be used in vain, this mechanism would be used in such a way that it wastes public resources. But then that said, what we now need to do is to also look at that law again. Is it open to abuse? And what mechanisms have we put in the Constitution to ensure that it's not abused? Now, Meru is a perfect example of how we must then look at that process. How many times can a leader be impeached? We've just seen it. A leader was impeached, they were discharged by the Senate. Again, they went ahead to impeach the leader, and the leader was discharged by the Senate. Now there's another process to impeach. That is a total waste of time. It was not the intention of the framers of the Constitution that such a process would be envisioned or envisaged, as it were. So my plea is that even as we look at it, remember the recall clause for members of parliament, there is the impeachment process for the president and for the governor and so on. These are mechanisms that must be used as a last resort, not in such a cavalier, in such a wishy-washy way as we have seen in the recent past.
Right. I just wanted to also just follow through with that and ask you, because we have Senator Tangwa, who is a senator of Kiambu, that has come up with a bill, and it is the County Government States Office Removal from Office Procedure Bill 2023, which is before the Senate, and is seeking to put in place legal framework for the removal of office of the governor. And it says that unlike the previous impeachment proceedings, the bill provides that a person may apply to the High Court for review to be done within 14 days of a decision of a Senate or County Assembly, and the matter will be heard and determined within 30 days. And the bill is committed to the Senate Justice and Legal Affairs Committee as we speak, and it provides a motion that a motion by a County Assembly for the removal of a governor by impeachment may only be introduced in the Assembly after the expiry of 90 days. Do you think this will make any discernible difference, or it is just a tweaking here and there that has no meaning?
Whatever the case, we need to make the impeachment process a bit more serious. I have seen it in the case of Kitui, I've seen it in the case of now of Kirinyaga and Meru, and even in Makueni. It is an open process for abuse. Some strictures, some guidelines ought to be put in place by statute in order for this process to make sense. Now, I haven't looked at that bill, but certainly it is the spirit that is the correct spirit, that we must make it not as easy a governor is elected by people. Members of the assembly are elected by the people. If the intentions of the electorates in Meru was to give power to such a few people so that they can undo what the majority have done in Meru, that power must be exercised with extreme caution and extreme sense of responsibility. It cannot be done in a cavalier way. It should not be done in such a way that is selfish, and in such a way that it's malicious. Because what we've seen is malice. So yes, I welcome that kind of an idea. Indeed, what we should do is debate it and make it even better. But then the whole issue also bringing in the High Court is critical, particularly on the constitutional violation issues, because the High Court has a responsibility to interpret any purported or any alleged violations of the Constitution. So even if the Senate were to act against the Constitution, again, it's a High Court that should be able to review that. So I would be looking at that with a view to seeing whether it's the best way to do it, but certainly we must look at the law so that we improve on it. Right now, it's open to abuse.
Right. Professor, briefly, as we also prepare our headline thoughts.
Yeah, so for me, the most important thing is that when you have power with no responsibility, then you are doomed to misuse that power. And I've seen so many people who enjoy this power without responsibility. Why am I saying so? Is the third attempt to impeach her the interest of the people of Meru? After impeaching her, will the common man or woman in Meru have better quality life? Will they get what they've been yearning for? They are yearning for better healthcare. They are yearning for better, let's say, livelihoods. They are yearning for their children to get education. Where is this taking the people of Meru? And my question is, Meru, given the fact that most MCAs don't go back after the first election, are the MCAs looking for what they can get? Because what I'm seeing across the country, MCAs are trying to find a way on which they can be able to impeach several governors. And sometimes what happens is some governors are very good with treating the MCAs so that they don't suffer. For example, if Kawira Mwangaza would tell these MCAs, let's go to Seychelles for 1 week, all this impeachment will disappear. And maybe they are trying to push her to get some resources. MCAs are trying to find resources. For example, in Siaya, where I come from, James Orengo was able to make all the MCAs vote to the last man. All of them voted to impeach Odual. The question is, what did he do with the MCAs to be on his side? And what is it that Kawira Mwangaza is not doing? And we have seen this impeachment happening. Wambura was also having this in Embu. Eventually, they didn't succeed to impeach him. But who lost? Because the governor was in court through and through impeachment. How much development did people of Embu get? So according to me, we need to go and review this devolution. We are still trying with devolution. There are so many things that need to be improved. For example, the laws. What makes a governor be impeached? If it is a violation, can the court pronounce itself that this is something was done so that I don't go through a process of impeachment? Because impeachment in Kenya is a political process. It's just how do you frame that thing in the Senate? If you frame by saying, for Governor Waria to stay in power, it will be a loss for the president, then it is more people who want to support the president voting for her to go home. Remember, we have always find how to politically frame what is actually legal issues or governance issues. Like the Finance Act was felt that if the Finance Act does not pass through, it may look like Raila Odinga has scored against William Ruto. So therefore, it was about people going to camps and doing it, because we have a problem of politics of identity. If Governor Mwangaza losing this seat is important to Gachagua in the wars in the Mount Kenya about succession, kingpinship and the rest, if that is the war, then it will not be framed as if she committed a crime. It will be framed like she needs to go home to make a statement that this is now the kingpin, mkubwa amesema na imefanyika. So there must be somebody after her, because I don't think that this is really fair. I don't even think that is making sense. And I'm sure that the Senate plus the court need to pronounce it in a way to make people just come out with anything against anybody which is not holding water. But if that is not addressed, then we shall see everybody upcoming with the process of trying to remove someone from office. But Uongozi basically is a victim of her, what you call independence, because she ran on an independent ticket. If she was a new DA, I can tell you, you could see a very different reaction altogether, because the president could have tried to defend his governor. But this case, she's been exposed just because she's independent.
Right. Okay, let's get our headline thoughts. Kipruto Rapkiro, briefly, just a one-liner. Looking ahead to next week with the developments next week as well as MIO, or not really as MIO, but the National Dialogue Committee meeting on Wednesday. Do you think that will be making any discernible difference to these talks, or it is crumbling as it is with new demands from Azimio? Briefly, just briefly, our one-liner. My music is up.
Yes, there is hope, but I'm worried from the fact that the two main players seem to be losing faith in the talks. It may be an exercise in futility, because at the end of the day, if these talks don't succeed, we are back in the street.
Have they been playing to the gallery? Well, there are exchanges that have already happened, but now what we see, it is very well orchestrated. That is bound to crumble by design.
According to me, there is no formula to reduce cost of living by sitting in Bomas, because the team in the National Dialogue Committee, I told them through my memorandum that they are not even qualified economists to come with economic formula to do this thing. And in fact, for me, I don't think that it will be an issue. Then Raila Odinga should not eject these things, because there was terms of reference and they had agreed how to do it. He cannot come again to cry to Kenyans. And as Linda Jamii, we are opposed to trying to solve economic problem using violence, because violence is not a tool, is not an economic tool to solve cost of living.
Right, thank you.
First, I wish Kawira Mwangaza well. I know she's suffering because of her gender. That's one thing that we've not said. She's a rare person in this political field. Governor that is popularly elected against running as an independent. So wish her well, and I'm sure that the decision for her to dissolve or to petition the dissolution of Meru County is the best decision to arrive at. On the issue of the national dialogue, I think that Adibali, you remember when I said here, right from the beginning, that there was no need for dialogue. And I was, my friend Mheshimiwa here did not agree with me. I am back there, that this was just a space holder. Nothing serious was ever meant to come from that dialogue. We are now prepared, we are being prepared for the collapse of the dialogue. But some people have spent some money, Kenyan money has been spent. A good use of time. It was a shortcut to going towards an amendment to the constitution through the back door, and that is okay. So all we can say is that we are still going to be here, and the issues that we are still confronting will be here.
Thank you.
National dialogue was never meant to help us.
Right, Martin Olo, advocate of the High Court, also a Dean School of Law, Star University. Also, we have Professor Ogola here, who is an economist. Thank you for your contribution today, and governance and policy analyst Kipruto Arap Kirwa. Thank you very much for joining us. In absentia, I also want to thank Dr. Barak Buluka, who is a strategic communication advisor. Thank you for your valued company on watching Uongozi today. We eagerly look forward to seeing you next week when we, of course, do a little bit of politics on Monday on Standpoint. Thank you for your valued company.